Today's Spotlight is brought to you in part by presenting sponsor, Busey Bank. Busey, your dream, our promise. Welcome to Spotlight. I'm your host, Jane Wernette. Today, we're talking with three local nonprofit organizations, Linden Oaks Behavioral Health, Naperville Park District Foundation, and Brightside Theater. You're watching Spotlight, and today I'm joined by Dr. Bradley Cutler, and he's a psychiatrist at Linden Oaks Behavioral Health. So welcome.
Thank you, Jane. Thanks for having me.
Oh, delighted. And I'm interested. Let's start right off with, as a psychiatrist, what are you doing at Linden Oaks?
At Linden Oaks, I'm treating adolescent and adult patients with behavioral health, mental health conditions, disorders.
Okay. And when you look at that, I mean, we hear a lot about that in the news, and the behavioral and the mental. What are the most pressing issues that you're seeing?
We see the suicide rates around the country are going up, and we see a lot of depression. Suicide can go with lots of different mental health issues, but suicide is now the 10th leading cause of death in the country. And in Illinois, in adolescents 15 up to 34-year-old adults, in that age group, it's the third leading cause of death in Illinois.
Wow.
So it's certainly a pressing issue and something we have to keep a very close eye on. So suicide as something we see, and it's often linked to depression, anxiety, psychosis. There's lots of different conditions in which suicide occurs.
Okay. That's kind of a staggering number, very concerning.
Yes.
As you talk, help me, just because I'm not a doctor,
Sure.
I play one on TV. As you talk about behavioral health versus mental health, is there a difference? How do you think about that?
That's a great question. And actually, there's just a change in terminology, but we think of them as the same kinds of things. So behavioral health and mental health would be considered to be the same, although we use both terms.
Okay. Now, obviously, you touched a little bit upon adolescence. Tell me a little bit more about that, because I think you're seeing a lot of them, are you not?
We see a lot of adolescents, and the suicide rates in adolescents are also one of the biggest groups that are increasing, and that's what's very scary. So we do see a lot of that, and I think some of it may be due to social media. Social media creates a lot of, it's easier to bully people over social media than when I was growing up many years ago, and you had to be on the playground or in school together. Now kids, adolescents, teens are going online, saying things to each other that are not the nicest, and it creates a lot of issues and circumstances for bullying, and it leads to low self-esteem and then worsening mood and ultimately sometimes, and very unfortunately, suicide attempts and sometimes completions. And we're doing our best to get to a road where we can really reduce suicides as low as possible, and we're working hard on that.
Yeah, you touched on something, and it certainly, I think a lot of people think about it with the whole social media, and you talked about the bullying and people being able to kind of get away with that. It's also a very invisible form of bullying, and I often think about the fact that when people are being bullied, if you were my generation, you
Yes.
were on the playground, likely as not, people saw that. They were witness to that, right?
Good point.
Nowadays, they're not so much witnessing, and that social media and that technology is more isolating.
Yes.
Are you seeing that play in?
We are, and so a lot of kids are isolating themselves, and so as a parent, if you see your kid in their room, maybe not coming out for dinner, not engaging in activities with their friends at school as much, these are signs to look for that maybe there's something going on. So you want if you notice any change in your child, or in an adult, of course, too, but any change is very important to keep an eye on.
Okay. Give us, and you talked about that with adolescents, about not coming out of your room, but as you think about older folks, if I was somebody or a friend or a coworker or a family member, what other kinds of signs might I look for that there was cause for concern?
Sure. So a broad way to say it is someone that's maybe not participating in their life as much. That's a broad way to say it. So maybe they're not watching the Cubs or the Sox games as much as they used to.
Well, that could be for other reasons.
Yeah, right.
But I'm with you.
That could be. Maybe they're missing some work, or they're sleeping too much, or their appetite's gone down. They're losing lots of weight, but they're not dieting. Or in the opposite, they're gaining lots of weight, but they're not. There could be so many different things to look for. So a change in the person's general functioning would be something to look for.
Okay.
Sleep, appetite, participating in work, participating in school for the adolescents, all things to keep an eye on.
Okay, and better to sort of err on the side of caution.
Yes.
What would you tell somebody? So if I was experiencing that with somebody I knew, what would you suggest to me? Do I immediately flag it? Do I try to talk to them about it? What would I do?
I think you would maybe keep an eye on the person, the friend, the family member initially, but as you notice it progressing, you might, and I think it would be a good idea to talk, and maybe even bring some other family and friends into the arena, into the room, to kind of just lightly, gently say, hey, you know, how have you been feeling lately? How can I help you? Is there something different about how you've been feeling the last few weeks, few months?
We talk a lot, and you hear a lot about kind of the stigma of mental health, behavioral health, and so as you're saying that in terms of the talking about it, that's a good thing, right? I mean, that sort of says, hey, I'm noticing something's not quite right. It's okay to want some help or some assistance. Yes?
That's absolutely true, yes. But if you go back not that many years, and several decades, of course, there was more of a stigma, and that stigma continues today, but it's a much less than it used to be. So the fact that we're able to talk about this, even the fact that we're able to talk about it on television, means we've come a long way from where we were. That doesn't mean we don't have a long way to still go.
Sure. Now talk a little bit, if you would, Dr. Cutler, about the treatment plans that you offer at Linden Oaks.
Sure. We have lots of different treatment plans. We treat people with, as I was saying, chemical dependence, eating disorders, anxiety disorders, depression, psychosis. We treat from adolescents up to geriatrics, and we have different modalities of doing that. We have our inpatient hospital, which is the 108-bed psychiatric hospital. We have day programs, which means oftentimes patients will step down from the hospital to a day program where they have 3 to 6 hours a day, for instance, of treatment. They still can go home at night, though. Mm-hmm. And some patients that don't need inpatient at that point may decide that a day program is good for them, or as I said, a patient may step down to a day program. And then there's outpatient treatment as well, where, you know, once every month, every few months, they'll come into our office and we'll counsel them, prescribe medications, and so forth. We also have psychotherapists doing frequent, usually weekly or monthly psychotherapy with patients. We have community outreach groups. We have a first aid, mental health first aid. Community.
What is that?
That's where we bring people from the community, whether it's school, counselors, teachers, police officers, parents, anyone from the community that's interested in mental health and looking at symptoms, kind of the things we're talking about today that they should look for in family members. Because what we want is people in the community to be able to respond to someone with a mental health issue just like someone would respond using CPR to someone with a cardiac abnormality. So we want to make this easy for people in the community to use and then to help their family and friends out.
Well, it sounds like you have a lot of resources. I mean, you obviously have a very qualified staff that's up there at Linden Oaks supporting those patients, and I think you've given us some good tips in terms of what to look for. Should we see something that's a little different and pay attention to it? Absolutely.
We have a great organization. I'm very happy to be there.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
And if you would like to learn more about the important work in behavioral health issues happening at Linden Oaks, please go and visit their website. We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We're coming right back with more Spotlight.
At Busey, our story centers around you, your goals, and your dreams. You dreamed of owning your first home. You partnered with us to customize a plan. You started a business. You trusted us to guide you through the ups and downs. You wanted to leave a legacy. You allowed us to bring your dreams to life. Thank you for partnering with us to make tomorrow's dreams today's reality. Busey, your dream, our promise.
Stay up to date on what's happening in our neighborhoods and schools at City Hall and all across town with NCTV 17 News Update. Emailed directly to your inbox once a day, Monday through Friday, this 2-minute video not only tells you the latest news, but shows it to you, all at your fingertips.
And that's what's happening right here in Naperville.
And the best part, it's free. So sign up today at nctv17.com/subscribe.
If you're just tuning in, you're watching Spotlight. I'm your host, Jane Wernette, and joining me now are Troy Cooper of the Naperville Parks Foundation and John Fiore. He's from Naperville North High School, so welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Hey, it's nice to see you, and I'm excited to talk about this topic with the Parks Foundation. We often hear about the Naperville Park District, but it's nice to talk to the Naperville Parks Foundation. So, Troy, I'm going to start out with you. What got you involved with it?
I got involved. I actually got invited from Mary Lou Worley, who was a board member, and my wife and I own Naperville Kayak in town.
Okay.
And so, over the years, I had talked to Mary Lou a lot about some of the agreements we have with different forest preserves and park districts, and got to know Mary Lou really well, and she knew some of the projects and things I was working on, and said, I think you'd be a great fit, and invited me on.
She's a great recruiter.
Yes.
She's very good at that. And how has your journey been since you've been at the Parks Foundation?
It's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of excitement, and we're doing new things all the time and trying to make things happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have a new initiative, which we're going to talk about today, and that's why John's here, which is this bicycle program. So tell me a little bit of the background about that initiative, how it got started, and what you're hoping to accomplish.
Well, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, John, we were at your wife's birthday party.
No, it's a common friend.
Common friend's birthday party. It was through my wife that I was there. But we were talking about Naperville Kayak, and we got to talking about bikes, and we just got in this conversation. He said he'd always want to do a bike program, and I said, hey, I'm the president of the Parks Foundation. We should try to figure out how to make it happen.
Nice. I like it. So, John, tell us why you always wanted to do something with bikes.
Well, it's something that I've heard about in some schools. In fact, there's a couple schools up north that do it, and we've started an adventure ed program. So we have a program for junior and seniors that they go wall climbing, high ropes, kayaking, orienteering, a lot of outdoor educational type activities, and mountain biking just seemed like, or biking in general, just seemed like a great fit. But then the more we talked about it, the more we thought about, well, this should really be not just an adventure ed program, it should be expanded to all grades. And that's eventually what we're going to do. We're going to start it at the junior, senior level with the adventure ed kids, and then expand it out to the entire curriculum.
Okay. I'm going to come back to how the foundation is helping with that and the support of that. But John, say a little bit more if you would, because we have this sort of vision of what physical ed looks like in a traditional high school, and clearly what you're talking about is nothing like we envision a typical dodgeball, we're running around the track, that kind of stuff. Why do you feel that this new way is a good way to go? What are the benefits you're seeing for students?
Well, I think the old PE really probably sometimes did more damage than good when you really think about it, the things that you just described. And really, since I've been involved at Naperville North since 2001, and even well before that, my predecessors, they designed dynamic programs that were fitness-based and really about strengthening students cognitively, physically, and emotionally. So I think giving kids more options and exposure to more activities outside of just your traditional PE setting is important, because that's what's going to lead them to a lifetime of activity.
Okay, so it really is trying to create that lifelong learner, but in
Right.
this case it's around physical activity.
Exactly.
And I would imagine that there's a little bit more cachet with that. I mean, I would think it's the kind of thing where, I know if I were a student, high rope sounds pretty cool, and biking sounds more interesting than maybe on a elliptical type situation.
Yeah, it's all about creating value,
Okay.
whether in physical education, math, or science, and that's our job as educators.
Okay. Now, Troy, how is the Parks Foundation playing a role in that?
I essentially did some research, and we were kind of stumbled upon the Specialized Foundation. So there's a couple different people involved. The Parks Foundation, Naperville North High School, we have the Specialized Foundation. We had some private donors, John Green Realtor, Jewel Osco, Spokes Bikes in Naperville kind of donated or discounted bikes and things for us. And then we also had the Specialized, the manufacturer side, that discounted bikes and things. So it's really a collaborative effort of a bunch of groups to make it happen. But at the end of the day, the program costs about $29,000. And the school had some portion that they kicked in toward it. And then we essentially came up with the rest of the funding with some of the money we raised from other projects like our Hops and Oak project and from those private donors.
Okay. Well, that's kind of always a critical role, isn't it, right? Because, you can have great ideas, but unless you get the funding, and you've obviously got a lot of different, very collaborative. It sounds like a lot of different groups together. And then you talked about the Hops and Oak, which is something I know we all have, that's a personal favorite for all of us in raising that money.
It's been a fun project.
Yeah. So now you talked a little bit, John, about you're starting with juniors and seniors, and then the future of the program is you want to roll it out. Say a little bit more about that.
Yeah, and I've already been exposed just going through this process with Troy and looking at the possibilities around Naperville North. There's so many more bike trails and that we could explore and utilize that are directly around Naperville North, and there's no reason why we couldn't expose it to all of our students, but we've got to first look at the logistics of it. We also have some training opportunities that we need to complete, and just to make sure everyone's at a good comfort level, because ultimately we want to keep the kids safe when we do this.
Right. Well, and nice, I would think too. I mean, the interesting part when I think about the Parks Foundation is that in this, that ultimately with those activities, you're getting out into the parks to be able to use them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our mission is to try to do impactful things anywhere we can, any way we can, to get people outside more active. And we've found that as a board, if we have exciting, like fun projects like this project, the Hobson Oak project, it kind of excites our board members because we're all it's a non-for-profit, but we're volunteers. We're
right.
100% volunteers. So it's made the meetings more fun. It's made everything we're doing more fun. So we're looking for small, kind of creative, impactful things that we can do, and this was a really, really good fit for us. We're really excited about it.
Yeah, well, and I would think too. I mean, when you're working on a nonprofit board, it's nice to see something go from start to finish. And I would imagine as you're watching this project at Naperville North, much like the Hobson Oak project, you're seeing it from start to finish, and that kind of motivates you to want to do a little more.
Absolutely. I've kind of talked to my board. I said we want to find kind of low-hanging fruit, small things that could be impactful, big impact. And I think for relative to other things we could be doing, like how much this program costs and how we were able to kind of spread out the cost through all the different donors and organizations, it's really been a real small amount out of our budget to make this happen. And we talked about potentially 12,000 kids could ride these bikes over the course of a 4-year period. So it ends up costing $1 per student for our group to donate that money. And I think that's a pretty good value.
That's a very good value.
Yeah.
You feel so too, John?
Oh yeah, and I think another way to look at this also is just exposing kids to the environmental benefits of biking, and about reducing their carbon footprint. I think we need to be stewards of the environment, and I think that's something that we need to teach kids sooner than later.
So you're really double dipping there because we're getting the physical education and the environmental education at the same time.
Exactly.
Well, great. You guys, thank you so much for coming by, and it's an exciting program, and we wish you the best of luck, and we'll look forward to hopefully having it roll out to those freshmen and sophomores because I'm sure they'll be ready for it when you get there. So if you would like to learn more about the Naperville Parks Foundation, please go and visit their website. We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We're coming right back with more Spotlight.
At Busey, our story centers around you, your goals, and your dreams. You dreamed of owning your first home. You partnered with us to customize a plan. You started a business. You trusted us to guide you through the ups and downs. You wanted to leave a legacy. You allowed us to bring your dreams to life. Thank you for partnering with us to make tomorrow's dreams today's reality. Busey, your dream, our promise.
Welcome back to Spotlight. I'm your host, Jane Wernette. I'm joined now by Julianne Cornick and John Cunningham of Brightside Theater. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nice to have you here. Now we know, we love Brightside Theater. It's Naperville's only professional nonprofit theater in town, and always performing in the heart of downtown Naperville, which is great. But you have your first next performance coming up, which is Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. So tell us a little bit about that, Julie.
Yeah, it's going to be performing this summer, June 7th through the 23rd, and it is a musicalized musicalized version of the movie that we grew to love in the late 80s with Steve Martin and Michael Caine. And it's about a couple of con men who are trying to con some women out of some money. And it's a lot of dancing and singing and jokes. And it's going to be really a great time. So it is really the musicalized version of the movie.
Okay.
So we're really excited to put that on the stage because it's farce. And we love farce. That's why Brightside started. So this really falls in a farcical musical all at the same time.
Yeah, that's nice. And that was a good movie, so it's always good to start with good content, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so John, are you a con man? What are you playing in Dirty Weapons?
Yes, I play Lawrence Jameson. He's the older con man of the two. He's been a con man for 13, 14 years at this point, working in the French Riviera in Beaumont-sur-Mer. And he's getting a little bored with it.
Okay.
Maybe. He's been doing it for a while now. It's kind of the same thing day in, day out. And this other con artist named the Jackal shows up to make things a little interesting for him. And spark joy, right? This is Marie Kondo wants us to do, spark joy. So spark some joy in him, and then hilarity ensues.
Okay, well, it sounds good. So now tell me a little bit about how you found Brightside Theater.
Sure. Well, actually, my sister-in-law worked with Brightside Theater. So we came to see Beauty and the Beast and Guys and Dolls and Hairspray, because I know she didn't work on Hairspray, but she had worked on the previous two that I mentioned. So we came to support her and get to see the space and get to know the theater company a little bit that way. And so I was very excited when Dirty Rotten Scoundrels popped up, because it's a show that I've wanted to do for years.
Okay.
So that was my in. I got to audition for it, and luckily they cast me as Lawrence, and we're having a blast.
Yeah. Describe a little bit, because, it's interesting, because you have, when you're cast, I know, kind of all come together, and people are coming from different walks and different places, right? How is that experience? What is that like for you creatively?
It's really cool. Sometimes you work on shows where you know a lot of the other people already. I've always said that being an actor is you have to implicitly trust everyone that you're working with, because you're starting a new job. That's a team effort, and you have to trust everyone on that team, because you only have so many weeks to get it done and then do the show, and then it's over, right? So you have to trust them right off the bat. You don't have time to make that up. And sometimes you get to do shows with people that you already know, and so that it's a little bit easier because you've already got that trust with them. But in this case, I'm new to the theater, and I'm new to everyone else, well, except for one guy in the show. I knew him in college, so it's been 20 years since we've seen each other.
A little bit of a throwback there.
Yes, but it is a really neat experience, because everyone there understands that situation, knows, okay, you're new to me, I'm going to trust you, you're going to trust me, and off we go, and we just all have fun with our scenes and with the music, and building the show to what will be a wonderful conclusion, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting as you talk about that. That's a really interesting analogy. And when you think about it, I mean, everybody there is motivated to make sure that everybody else looks good, right?
Yes.
Because if they don't, the performance is no good.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That really must feed to that whole collaboration.
Yeah, there's always that fun story out there about, the one actor who wants the part, and so they do whatever they can to make sure that actor gets hurt so that I can come in and take over the role.
Be the understudy.
Right, and that rarely happens. There's a lot of love in the theater, because we're all trying to do the same thing. We're all trying to be successful, and we're all working towards the same goal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Julie, are you in this show?
I am in the show as well.
Okay, so what are you playing?
So I'm playing Muriel Eubanks, and she is one of the women that John does try to swindle a couple dollars out of throughout the show. And she's looking for love. Everybody sort of, to an extent in our lives, are looking for love and finding that happiness and finding what does that really mean. And Muriel might have some luck at the end of the show. So.
Oh, okay. So we're going to stay tuned and come find out. Now, where are you at this year? Are you at Pfeiffer?
No, we are still at Theater at Miley Swallow Hall, which has still been our performance home.
Okay.
Next year, when we move into our 9th season, we will actually pull one of our shows, which is a new production, into the Madden Theater. But we are still doing performing at the Theater at Miley Swallow Hall. But in our 9th season for Guilty Pleasures, we are adding a concert version series of a production. So it's a show that maybe is not as popular, or doesn't have a name as big as some of the other titles out there, but the music is glorious. So it will be a concert version versus a staged version of the production, and we're going to make it a little bit more intimate into the Madden Theater. So in our 9th season, we are doing the musical 9.
Oh, interesting. Now, I mean, and you kind of mentioned it at the top of the interview about how the name got started with Monty Python and the farce and all of that kind of stuff. But you always stretch a little bit. I'm always fascinated fascinated
We
by that.
do.
Yeah.
So this is our added piece for this year is that new performance for our audience to come and enjoy, and something that's different. We're kind of twisting up our fundraiser as well. I'm going to do kind of a Las Vegas night versus a more of a review type of a setting. So we're going to do that. So we do like to mix it up a little bit for our audience, but there's still that focus on enlightening and educating and entertaining our audiences, typically through comedies and musicals. So that's still always going to be our mission, but we're going to keep growing and adding as we go on to now our 9th season.
Yeah, so now say, what shows do you have for the 9th season?
Yeah, so our Guilty Pleasure season, because we always have to come up with some sort of
I like that.
So we start off with A Christmas Carol, the musical, which will open the Friday after Thanksgiving. So a great family-friendly show. We'll move on to 9 the musical, which will be in Madden for just a 1-weekend run. So a really short run in February 2020. We will move to the 30th anniversary of Steel Magnolias, which we felt was a great piece to put on our stage. Again, a little bit of a guilty pleasure.
Yes.
We all love that movie.
Absolutely.
And then we're going to kick it off next summer with Mamma Mia. So,
well, that's a classic favorite, right?
Absolutely. So little guilty pleasures all through the season. We're just really excited to continue to grow and bring different experiences to the theater, to the Naperville and surrounding areas.
That's nice. So as we kind of wrap up a little bit, I do want to touch on the whole student aspect, because that's been an important part of your mission and what you do at Brightside. So talk a little bit about some of the summer stuff that you have coming up for other people to get involved in.
Yeah, so our Brightside Theater Youth Project is our educational piece, and one of the things that we truly focus on is to get the kids to be able to perform at whatever level that is in a warm, comfortable, open environment, so they can explore what they would like to do and gain some of that self-confidence along the way. So we always build our summer camps around what our show will be for the kids to participate in March of 2020. And this year, falling very well in line with our Guilty Pleasure seasons, is Frozen Junior. So we will have kids, actually this year we extended again from kindergarten now all the way to senior in high school. So we used to do 3rd grade to senior, and now we have some camps for kindergarten through 2nd grade to come and join us and start to explore with us as well. So we'll have 6 different camps and options throughout the month of June for a week-long camp for either the morning or the afternoon sessions.
Well, it sounds like you have lots going on.
Yes, we do.
No room for comments, John, because they got lots going on. So just, don't divert them too much.
Not worth it.
We wish you the best of luck. We're excited for the show to open in June, and obviously your summer camps, which are always, very well attended, and people appreciate that. And then we'll look for some more guilty pleasures as we get into 2020,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
Hard to believe we're saying 2020 already.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you for stopping by. If you would like to find out more about the upcoming season or the summer learning camps happening at Brightside Theater, please go and visit their website. We're going to take a quick break, but stay tuned. We're coming right back. I'd like to thank all of my guests for joining us on Spotlight, and importantly, our friends at Busey Bank for their generous sponsorship of today's show. If you would like to learn more about the 3 organizations featured on today's show, please go and visit our website at nctv17.com. And to stay informed about what's happening in your community, sign up to receive our daily news update. Or you can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. For Spotlight, I'm Jane Wernette. Thank you for watching.